The movie starts in the future, a few years from now. We see advertisements on buildings, walls, and bus stops for the popular game called Slayers. It features the main character, Cable, who has only 4 battles left before he can be free. We then witness a battle happening inside a factory with lots of shooting and action. All the participants in the game are controlled by players from different places. Players earn points for each kill and for helping their teammates. Some characters are shown doing simple tasks on the battlefield, seemingly unaware of the violence around them. A 17-year-old named Simon is controlling Cable, guiding him through the factory. After defeating most of his opponents, Cable is thrown out of the factory but manages to reach a safe spot and win the battle. Later, the surviving characters are moved to a different location. The other characters congratulate Cable for his victory, and he now has only 3 battles left before gaining his freedom. Some doubt that anyone will ever be released from the game. The producer and chief of staff, Bob, from the Gina Parker Smith Show, talk about their next guest, Ken Castle, the genius recluse who created Slayers. On the show, Gina discusses Ken Castle's achievements. He initially made a game called Society, which is like The Sims. However, instead of controlling a fictional character, players control real people and make them do whatever they want. You can pay to control someone else, or you can get paid to be controlled. Society quickly became very popular and profitable, making Castle the richest person in the world, surpassing Bill Gates overnight. 9 months ago, Castle created Slayers, a controversial game supported by the government. Castle defends Slayers, saying that all the characters in the game, despite being real people, are death row inmates who chose to join the game instead of serving their prison sentences. If a convict can survive 30 battles, they will be set free, although no one has ever made it that far. Some prisoners are sent into battlefields with pre-planned actions, and if they survive just 1 battle, they can be set free. However, they can't defend themselves, which leads to a very high death rate. The games are all shown on pay-per-view. Everyone in Slayers and Society has nanocells implanted in their brains, allowing them to be controlled by someone else. They can only be controlled within the game's boundaries. So after the game ends, they regain control. Once the show is over, the signal is hacked by humans from a resistance group. The human's brother criticizes Castle and warns that we'll all become his slaves if we continue on this path. Castle finds it amusing and orders his men to trace the signal's source. In prison, a convict fatally beats a guard and attempts to escape but ultimately fails. Cable sits alone, thinking about his family. Freak joins him and mentions how Cable's solitary thinking spooks others. He can't believe Cable only has 3 battles left. Freak asks him why he's in prison. Cable has a quick flashback of a man bleeding in a room. Later, while in his cell, someone opens the slot of the door and hands Cable a picture of his wife and child. The female voice on the other side knows that his family is the only thing he fights for. She asks Cable to sign an autograph for her son and takes a blood sample from his hand as proof of authenticity to increase the autograph's value. Elsewhere, we see Cable's wife, Angie, heading to work as a character in the game Society. All the game characters wear bizarre and revealing costumes. Angie is controlled by an obese man named Gorge. Gorge makes Angie interact with a male character wearing a pig nose. The male character behaves inappropriately toward Angie while she's focused on a banner across the street featuring Cable. Suddenly, Society is hacked into by humans who continue to criticize Castle. Castle watches a news report about how the hacking briefly shut down the game and cost him billions of dollars. Castle dismisses it, considering the money insignificant to him. The convicts for Slayers are being taken to the next battleground. Sandra introduces herself to Cable. Guards don't allow the convicts to talk, and as a result, Sandra is beaten. The convicts enter the battlefield, a ruined city. Armed with machine guns and bulletproof vests, the game begins, and a massive shootout ensues, with casualties from explosions and gunshots. Cable notices a female convict pre-programmed to walk in the street as the battle unfolds. Simon instructs Cable to save the convict from being run over, but she ends up getting hit by another truck. Sandra saves Cable from being killed but loses her life moments later. Simon guides Cable through the intense battle, and Cable emerges victorious. People worldwide celebrate Cable's win. During transport, one of the surviving convicts becomes agitated, wanting to escape. He questions who exactly is pulling the strings during these battles. We learn that Simon is a privileged, tech-savvy individual with access to the latest gadgets. Simon makes himself a sandwich and spends his points to upgrade Cable's ammunition from the game. He engages in conversations with various girls through instant messaging. A pair of twins expose themselves to him and offer money in exchange for controlling Cable. Simon's system is hacked by humans who show him footage of Cable shooting a man in the head. A voice tells Simon that they can help him talk to Cable if he wishes. Meanwhile, Castle prepares to introduce Hackman to the Slayers game. Castle has no intention of letting Cable go, even if he wins 2 more battles. So he strategically places Hackman in the game to eliminate Cable. Hackman won't be controlled, giving him free rein. A convict, frustrated with being controlled, attempts to remove the nanocells from his brain, but tragically dies in the process. Freak informs Cable that Hackman killed a group of people but surrendered to enter prison. Cable is taken outside for target practice with his upgraded ammunition. He discusses the challenges of being controlled with a guard, particularly the delay between a player's command and the character's action. Later, Hackman confronts Cable in the locker room with bloodied hands, confessing to a recent murder and vowing to kill Cable and his family. As the next battle commences, Simon communicates with Cable, revealing that he's set up a way for them to talk to each other. Cable observes that Freak has been pre-programmed to sweep the ground and tragically gets caught in the crossfire and shot to death. Simon remains indifferent to the loss of lives, despite Cable's reminder that they are all real people. Simon instructs Cable to search an abandoned parking garage, but Cable wants to venture further. Simon cautions him that they're close to the game's boundary. A rocket is fired at Cable to push him away from the perimeter. Hackman suddenly appears and attacks Cable, ready to shoot him. However, the game timer runs out, causing the weapon to shut down. As the guards take Hackman away, Cable tells Simon that if he wants to win, he must set him free. Angie tries to regain custody of her daughter, but the caseworker mocks her. Given Cable's criminal past and Angie's job in society, the caseworker questions whether they would provide a better life for their daughter. Angie insists they would, but her application is denied because their daughter has been placed with a wealthy family. While Simon purchases upgraded armor for Cable, his system is hacked by humans. Simon's brother encourages him to heed Cable's advice and set him free, as Castle won't allow Cable to survive. Simon grapples with the notion of Cable controlling himself, considering it cheating. However, brother persuades him to help Cable. In his cell, Cable is visited by the woman who obtained his autograph and blood sample. She informs him that Simon will grant him control of himself and that he must escape his final battle to reunite with his family. Cable requests to be given alcohol. As he prepares for the last battle, Cable discovers a vodka bottle in his vest and consumes it entirely. He staggers around the battlefield while Simon watches unhappily, urging Cable to regain composure for survival. Cable heads to a parking garage, vomits into an ethanol gas tank of a truck, and attempts to drive away. However, Hackman clings to the truck's side. Cable defeats Hackman and causes the truck to crash into a pillar. Cable is pursued by guards and trucks, managing to eliminate them and cause collisions among them. Cable crashes through the perimeter and escapes the truck just before a rocket is fired, propelling him away. The game broadcast stops, and it's assumed that Cable is dead. However, Gina remains skeptical, knowing that Cable will try to reach Angie. While Angie is controlled by Gorge in society, Cable visits her apartment in search of her. Trace, a member of the humans, approaches Cable and reveals herself as the woman he conversed with in prison. They depart for the humans' headquarters. Cable inquiries about the blood sample taken from him, which was used to decipher his unique nanocode, enabling Simon to communicate with him and the humans to eavesdrop on their conversation. They understand Cable's fear of being free and helped him escape. They urge Cable to assist them in bringing Castle down before he enslaves everyone, though Cable remains hesitant. Brother discloses that they know Angie's whereabouts. Gina has already found Angie and follows her in society. Angie is taken to a bar by Gorge where she meets Rick Rape, who is extremely eager and was previously banned. They check into a hotel, but Rick becomes inappropriate with Angie. When they reach their room, Gorge forces Angie to comply with Rick, even though she clearly doesn't want to. Before Rick can harm her, Cable arrives and incapacitates Rick, killing him. Cable instructs Gorge to release his control, but Gorge can't, and he continues to speak through Angie. Cable goes to the elevator with Angie to leave, but then Hackman appears and shoots Cable in the chest, propelling him into a room where other characters are engaged in various activities. Hackman takes Angie and enters the elevator. Cable, still wearing body armor, gets up and rushes downstairs. Two society characters enter the elevator and kiss. Gorge instructs Hackman to eliminate the other characters, which he does with enthusiasm. Gorge takes pleasure in the violence while Angie is frightened. When the elevator doors open, Cable seizes Hackman and they engage in a fight. Cable manages to obtain a gun and shoots off Hackman's foot. Castle's guards arrive and engage Cable in a shootout. Cable asks Gorge for directions, and he and Angie lead him to a room filled with society characters. The guards follow, resulting in another shootout in which a couple of society characters are killed. They escape outside, where Gina arrives in her van. She offers to help Cable, and they both get in the van. Meanwhile, Simon is being questioned by Agent Keith. Keith informs Simon that the authorities are investigating his computer and files. He wants Simon to reveal how Cable managed to escape from Slayers. Gina drives Cable to the humans' headquarters, where they assist Angie. They can't remove the nanocells from her because they are fully integrated into her brain. However, they inject her with something that should help prevent her from being controlled. Brother tells Cable that Castle initially tested the nanotechnology on two military subjects, Cable and Scotch. Some weeks later, Scotch was deceased, Cable was in prison, and the project was terminated. The same technology resurfaced when Castle introduced it again. Brother wants to uncover the truth about what transpired during the project. As Castle wanted all connections to it buried, Castle's henchmen go to Gorge's apartment posing as tech support. In the meantime, the humans investigate Cable's memories. During the project, Cable entered a room with Scotch. He aimed a gun at Scotch and struggled to control himself but failed. Castle manipulated Cable to kill Scotch. Angie wakes up and reunites with Cable. She informs him that she tried to stop the government from taking their daughter but wasn't successful. Trace informs them that the humans have discovered that Castle adopted their daughter. Filled with anger, Cable sets out to get his daughter back. Gina tries to follow him, but he insists that she leaves. Gina notices Castle's henchmen arriving and infiltrating the humans' headquarters. Simon is released after being questioned. He returns home and finds a flood of hate mail. Castle anticipates that Cable will come after him. Cable enters Castle's mansion and spots his daughter in a room. He rushes toward her but can't enter the room. It turns out to be a simulation displayed on a screen. Castle reveals it as his latest invention. Cable discovers Castle controlling several other people and performing complex dance moves. Cable fights and eliminates all the henchmen. He gets hold of Castle but is threatened with harm to his daughter. Castle discloses that he has found the humans' headquarters and eliminated everyone. He also implanted the nanocells in his own brain years ago. While everyone else's nanocells are set to receive, his are set to transmit, allowing him to control anyone with his thoughts. His intention is to dominate the entire world and make people do his bidding. Castle leads Cable to a basketball court where Hackman is shooting hoops with his new foot. Castle takes control of Hackman and makes him attack Cable with a knife. Cable fights Hackman and violently defeats him, even breaking his arm and snapping his neck twice to ensure he's dead. Cable grabs the knife and attempts to use it on Castle, but he is also controlled to stop. In the meantime, Trace survives the human massacre. She and Gina broadcast Cable's nano code to the world, providing a live feed of what he sees. Castle forces Cable to harm himself by making him cut his leg with the knife. He then takes off his shirt and starts beating Cable while the world watches. Castle brings in Angie and her daughter. He commands Cable to kill his daughter with the knife. However, Cable manages to regain control and instead slams the knife into the floor. He then picks it up and tries to use it on Castle. Simon has regained control of Cable's body. As they wrestle for control over the knife, Castle arrogantly declares, "I think it, you do it." Cable responds by suggesting that Castle thinks about getting stabbed in the gut. Cable successfully stabs Castle, leading to his demise. The world celebrates Castle's downfall. Cable has Castle's technicians deactivate the nanocells, setting everyone free. The film concludes with Cable, Angie, and their daughter driving off into the unknown, finally free.